Always a pleasure.
Today we're going to be diving into the heavy stuff, the emotional side of divorce.
Yeah.
And we're going to be using a conversation from a men's support group as our source material today.
Great source material.
Yeah, it really is fascinating stuff.
Yeah.
The listener we're going to be hearing from is Eric.
Okay.
And his honesty about what he's going through is just, it's really striking.
It's true.
Even if you're not going through divorce yourself.
It's the kind of stuff that I think a lot of people can relate to.
Yeah, definitely. So Eric starts by just laying it all out there.
Yeah.
He's overwhelmed with anxiety. He's struggling with self-loathing, feeling totally lost. He says, I go to bed feeling shame and self-loathing.
Wow.
I wake up feeling shame and self-loathing.
It's powerful how he articulates that.
Yeah.
Those feelings are so heavy.
Yeah. And the specifics of divorce might not resonate with everyone.
Right.
But those feelings of self-doubt and shame, I think, are pretty universal. Think about a time you felt like you just messed up big time.
Everyone's been there.
Yeah. You probably felt some of that same stuff.
Absolutely. That cocktail of shame and doubt.
And in Eric's case, he actually pinpoints an event that really amped up his anxiety.
Oh, really?
It was seeing his ex-wife all dressed up when he went to pick up their kid.
Oh.
And he just immediately assumes that she's moving on.
Makes sense.
With someone new.
Yeah.
And that just sends him spiraling.
Yeah, that makes sense.
It's like his threat system just got completely hijacked.
Yeah, his brain is trying to protect him from more pain.
Right, because he's already feeling vulnerable and uncertain.
Right.
And this observation just totally reinforces all of his fears.
It's almost like confirmation of all those negative thoughts he's having.
Yeah, like being replaced and left behind.
It all just gets amplified in that moment.
Yeah. So his brain's going into overdrive, right?
Of course.
Trying to protect him from more pain.
Right.
So let's unpack this threat system a little bit.
Okay.
What's actually happening in Eric's brain when this is triggered?
So think about it like this.
Okay.
It's like a car alarm going off.
Okay.
But it's in your brain. So your limbic system is the part of your brain that handles emotions and your survival instincts.
Right.
It starts flooding your body with cortisol.
Which is the stress hormone?
Exactly. That's the one.
Yeah.
And that puts you on high alert.
Makes you feel anxious.
Yeah. And on edge.
So then to counteract that discomfort,
yes,
your brain starts craving dopamine.
Right. It's looking for that feel-good hormone to balance things out.
So that explains why he says he swapped one bad coping mechanism for another.
Yeah, it makes total sense.
He's searching for that dopamine rush to calm down.
Right. But the problem is...
Even if it's harmful in the long run.
Exactly. It doesn't really address the underlying issue.
It's like putting a Band-Aid on a deep wound.
A perfect analogy.
It might give you some temporary relief, but it's not actually going to heal anything.
And a lot of times, those quick fixes, they just cause more problems down the line.
So things like overeating or spending too much time on social media.
Right, those kinds of things.
He contrasts this with wanting to activate oxytocin.
Interesting.
What he calls the cuddle hormone.
I like that.
Because he associates it with feeling soothed and connected.
That makes sense.
But he says he's having a hard time tapping into that on his own.
That's really insightful of him.
Yeah.
Because oxytocin is powerful stuff.
Yeah.
It really helps foster feelings of trust and bonding, and it reduces those stress hormones.
But it's hard to generate that when you're feeling isolated.
Especially during a divorce.
Which is so common during divorce.
Exactly.
And that's where the support group comes in.
Yeah.
Eric gets all this different advice.
Well, cool.
From the other men in the group.
Yeah.
And Ben encourages him to try using positive affirmations.
Okay, so instead of focusing on all the negative thoughts, he can consciously choose to focus on more positive ones.
Right.
Like telling himself that he is worthy.
That he can make positive changes.
Exactly.
Yeah, it might feel forced at first.
Yeah, for sure.
But over time,
it
can actually rewire those thought patterns.
Right. It's like replacing a broken record with a new, more uplifting tune.
I like that analogy.
Thanks.
And then there's Tom.
Okay.
Who brings up the possibility of medication.
Okay.
And he actually shares his own experience with sertraline.
Oh, wow.
Which is an antidepressant.
Interesting.
And it's interesting that he brings this up.
Yeah.
Because there's often such a stigma around medication.
Especially for men.
Yeah.
It's like they're not supposed to talk about their feelings.
Right.
Let alone take medication for them.
Exactly. Yeah. But what Tom is suggesting is that medication can give you some relief.
Yeah.
Like a break from the really intense thoughts and emotions.
Yeah, just some breathing room to start working on things.
And then there's Mark, who has a totally different perspective.
Okay.
He focuses on what Eric can control. His actions, his reactions, and the power of talking things out.
I like that approach.
Yeah, so instead of dwelling on things he can't control,
Right.
like his ex-wife's actions,
Yeah.
he shifts the focus to what he can influence.
That's a really good way to start feeling more empowered.
And talking things out is really interesting.
Yeah.
Do you think it's just about venting?
I think it's more than that.
Okay.
I think it's about processing those emotions and gaining some clarity.
Yeah.
And realizing that you're not alone in all of this.
Right.
Whether you're talking to a therapist or a support group or even a friend.
It can be really healing.
Yeah, I think so too.
And then we have Jake,
Okay.
who brings up some really interesting points.
Like what?
He wonders if Eric might have nutritional deficiencies
Oh, interesting.
that are contributing to his mood.
Okay.
And he even says something about being addicted to cortisol.
Wow.
And that just highlights how interconnected our physical and mental health are.
It really does.
Nutritional deficiencies can definitely impact mood and anxiety.
Absolutely.
And even though addicted to cortisol isn't a clinical term,
Right.
it speaks to how our bodies can get used to high stress levels.
To the point where we actually seek out stressful situations.
Like our baseline for what feels normal gets totally out of whack.
It's kind of scary when you think about it.
So we've heard about Eric's struggles and the advice he gets.
Yeah.
So where does he go from here?
That's the big question.
What steps can he take to start managing this anxiety and moving forward?
I think the foundation for any positive change has to be self-compassion.
Okay.
You know, he needs to acknowledge the pain he's in.
Validate his feelings
There's-
and realize that he's not alone in this.
It's so easy to get caught up in self-blame,
Yeah.
but that doesn't help.
So he needs to be kind to himself
Absolutely.
before he tries to do anything else.
Right. And from that place of self-compassion,
Yeah.
he can start to see what resonates with him.
Which pieces of advice?
Exactly. It's about finding what feels right for him.
There was also this interesting part about determinism.
Oh, yeah, I remember that.
Jake asks Eric if he believes in it.
So the idea that everything is already predetermined?
Right. And it's a big question,
Yeah,
especially when you're already dealing with so much.
definitely.
Eric says yes at first,
Okay.
but then he clarifies that he doesn't think that negates personal responsibility.
Just not like we're just puppets on a string.
Right. It's more nuanced than that.
Okay.
He's acknowledging that our past experiences shave us,
Right.
but we can still make choices.
That's an important distinction.
We can still learn and grow.
It's about finding that balance.
Yeah, between accepting the past
Mm-hmm.
without feeling trapped by it.
It's a tough concept to wrap your head around.
So we've covered a lot in this first part of our deep dive.
We have.
We've heard about Eric's emotional state,
Yes.
explored that threat system,
Right.
and heard all the advice he got.
And what's really striking
Yeah.
is how relatable so much of this is.
Even if you haven't been through divorce.
Yeah. We've all faced self-doubt and anxiety.
Right.
And we've all probably relied on those unhealthy coping mechanisms at times.
But what I think is so powerful about Eric's story
Yeah.
is his willingness to be vulnerable
It is.
and to ask for help
Yeah.
and to really try to find ways to get through this.
He's taking ownership of his journey.
Absolutely.
And that's inspiring.
So in the next part of our deep dive,
Yeah.
we're going to explore the specific steps that Eric takes to manage his anxiety
Okay. I'm interested to hear about that.
and start rebuilding his life.
It'll be interesting to see what works and what doesn't.
Yeah, so stay tuned for part 2.
I will.
Welcome back to the deep dive. So in part 1,
Yeah.
we really dove into all the emotional turmoil of divorce,
Yeah. All that heavy stuff.
focusing on Eric's experience
Right.
in the men's support group.
It was fascinating to hear.
And we heard his honesty about his anxiety and shame.
All those feelings of being lost.
Yeah.
Mm.
And we explored some interesting ideas like the threat system
Right.
and the role of hormones.
Yeah. How they impact our response to stress.
And all that different advice that Eric got from the group.
Yeah, ranging from positive affirmations to possibly trying medication.
What really stuck with me, though,
Yeah.
was Eric's description of feeling like he was up against an army
Oh, yeah.
of negative thoughts.
It's a powerful image,
Yeah.
like an internal battle.
Yeah, and I think so many of us can relate to that.
Oh, absolutely.
But in the midst of all that struggle, he also says he wants to change.
That's great.
He wants to find a way forward,
Good for him.
a more meaningful life.
Yeah, you can hear that in his voice.
He acknowledges that those quick dopamine hits from those unhealthy coping mechanisms, they haven't been helpful.
It's a hard lesson to learn,
Yeah.
but an important one,
Yeah, and he says he wants to tap into those feelings of calm and connection.
which he associates with oxytocin.
But he's not sure how to do that alone.
So how does he shift gears?
Yeah, how does he move from that constant state of threat to a state of soothing and connection.
It's not a quick fix, that's for sure.
Right.
But he starts by trying out the advice that resonated most with him.
Okay.
He seems drawn to Mark's suggestion of focusing on what he can control.
Yeah.
And the power of talking things out.
So instead of focusing on his ex-wife's actions, he's choosing to focus on his own actions and reactions.
That's huge.
It is.
It's about taking back some control.
Exactly.
In a situation that can feel totally chaotic.
And that's true for all of us.
It is.
Not just people going through divorce.
Think about a time when you felt totally overwhelmed by something.
Oh, yeah.
Did focusing on what you could control help?
For sure, when I feel stuck.
Yeah.
Even just taking small steps helps me feel more in control.
Absolutely.
And the talking things out part goes hand in hand with that.
Yeah, I agree.
Eric realizes that keeping everything bottled up just makes things worse.
Makes those emotions feel bigger.
So sharing his struggles with the group helps.
Creates a sense of connection.
Yeah, and validation.
It's like he's letting go of some of that burden.
He's not carrying it alone anymore.
And as he keeps talking openly with the group, maybe a therapist or friends.
You start to notice a shift in his internal dialogue.
That's great.
He starts to cultivate a more compassionate inner voice.
Yeah, remember how he was intrigued by Ben's suggestion?
About the positive affirmations.
Yes.
At first, he probably felt weird.
Oh, yeah, sure.
Like he was trying to convince himself of something he didn't believe.
It takes time.
Yeah. But the more he repeats those affirmations.
Like what kinds of things?
Things like, I am worthy of love and happiness.
Okay.
Or I am capable of making positive changes.
Those are great.
The more those thoughts start to chip away.
At the self-doubt.
The shame.
It's like he's rewiring his brain.
Replacing the old tapes.
With new ones.
And as his inner landscape changes.
Yeah.
He starts to notice changes in his external world, too.
Like what?
He's more confident.
Okay.
More present with his son.
Good.
He's even making healthier choices. With his diet and exercise.
It's like taking care of his mental health.
Is giving him the energy to take care of his physical health, too.
Exactly. It's all connected.
And it's not a linear process.
Right.
There will be setbacks.
But he's actively choosing to nurture his well-being.
Now, what about that dopamine trap?
Oh, right.
Is he still struggling with those bad coping mechanisms?
It's an ongoing battle.
Okay.
But the difference is that he's more aware of his triggers now.
Okay.
He's recognizing when he's tempted to reach for that bag of chips or scroll through social media.
So instead of giving in to those urges, what's he doing differently?
He's starting to replace those short-term dopamine hits with activities that provide a more sustainable sense of well-being.
Okay.
So instead of reaching for the chips, maybe he goes for a run.
Okay.
Or listens to his favorite music.
Calls a friend.
Exactly. He's finding healthier ways to deal with the cravings.
Ways that nourish him.
And over time, as he keeps making these conscious choices, he's essentially rewiring his brain.
To seek connection and joy from within.
Rather than relying on those external sources.
So he's not magically cured of anxiety. Or free from negative thoughts.
It's not realistic to think that'll just disappear.
Right. But he has new strategies now.
To help him cope.
And he's starting to believe in himself again.
That's the most important part.
He believes he can create a fulfilling life.
Despite all the pain and uncertainty.
His story's really inspiring.
It is.
Even though it's still unfolding.
It shows that even in the toughest times, we can make positive changes.
Welcome back to the Deep Dive. We've been following Eric's journey through divorce.
Yeah, all the ups and downs.
Exploring the challenges and the glimmers of hope along the way.
It's been quite a ride.
As he's figuring out how to heal and move forward, we've seen his vulnerability, his willingness to really confront those tough emotions.
Right.
And his dedication to finding healthier ways to cope.
He's putting in the work.
Yeah, and in this last part, I'm curious about the long-term impact of all this.
Yeah.
Is it possible for something good to come out of something so painful?
That's a good question.
I know you've talked about post-traumatic growth.
Right.
I'd love to hear more about that.
Yeah, it might seem counterintuitive.
Okay.
But even the most challenging experiences can lead to huge personal growth.
So it's not about pretending the pain isn't there.
No, not at all.
Or that everything happens for a reason.
It's more about recognizing that we can learn and grow from adversity.
Finding meaning within the experience.
Exactly.
So for Eric, I think that growth starts with vulnerability.
Right. Remember how he didn't want to share his struggles at first?
Yeah, like he had to be strong.
So many people do that.
Especially men.
It's like they're not supposed to show weakness.
Right. But through the group, he saw how powerful it could be.
To let go of that.
To let himself be seen.
And he realized he wasn't alone.
Sharing those burdens made them feel lighter.
It's like those walls he had built up started to come down.
And something new started to grow.
Something stronger.
And how do you think that new openness will impact his relationship with himself?
I think he'll start treating himself with more kindness.
Yeah.
More understanding.
Realizing he's worthy of love and compassion.
Even when he messes up, that inner critic starts to quiet down.
Replaced by a more supportive voice.
He's giving himself permission to be human.
With all the flaws.
Yeah, and from that place of self-acceptance, he can start to find more meaning in his life.
Right. Maybe he starts spending more quality time with his son.
Okay.
Or picks up old hobbies.
Or finds new passions.
He's creating a life that feels authentic to him.
Yeah, a life that reflects all that growth.
It's inspiring to see.
Even though it's still a process.
It reminds us that even when things are tough, we can choose growth and healing.
So what are some key takeaways from Eric's story?
For our listeners.
Yeah, what can they apply to their own lives? Whether they're dealing with divorce or other challenges, well, first of all, remember that you're not alone.
Yeah.
Whatever you're going through, someone else has probably been there too.
Right.
Don't be afraid to ask for help.
Talk to friends and family.
Yeah, or a therapist.
Find a support group.
Sharing your struggles can make a big difference.
And it's important to be kind to yourself.
Yes.
Treat yourself like you would treat a friend.
Acknowledge the pain.
Yeah, validate those feelings.
And know that you're doing the best you can.
We all make mistakes.
There are opportunities to learn.
And don't forget about vulnerability.
Letting yourself be seen.
Yeah, that's where the real connection happens.
And the healing.
And remember that growth takes time.
There will be setbacks.
You might feel like you're moving backwards.
Be patient with yourself.
Yeah.
Celebrate the small wins.
And trust that even in the darkest times,
there's always hope.
That's a great message to end on.
I think so too.
Eric's journey has given us so much to think about. And I hope our listeners feel empowered to embrace their own journeys.
Whatever those may look like.
Thank you for joining us on this deep dive.
It's been great.
Into the world of divorce and all the emotions that come with it.
Yeah, really insightful stuff.
We'll be back soon with more explorations into the human experience.
Sounds good.
Until then, keep diving deep.
And keep seeking out those moments of connection.
Growth and wonder.
That make life so meaningful.
See you next time.